I normally enter into these sorts of discussions with the caveat that I'm neither trying to hate on the player nor hate on the game, but in many ways, the point of this video is precisely to hate on both the player and the game. This has only happened to me twice while I've been in China, but even so, that's a remarkably high number when you consider that I don't meet women at bars. I mean, look, today in the afternoon, I opened up my phone and I see I've got a text message from 2 a.m. the night before. I barely use my phone. I basically use my phone only to communicate with my teacher and my employer. So, like, my phone would not be on at 2 o'clock in the morning. And also, by the way, I managed to avoid ever owning or using a cellular phone until I was 37 years of age, something I was very proud of. A winning streak I would have gladly continued, but moving to China, I was absolutely forced to start using a cellular phone. Not worth explaining why. So I got this message from this beautiful young woman at 2 a.m. last night. Like, yo, yeah, where you at? You busy? Like, it's in English too. Most of the time, she and I talked in Chinese. And it's like, yeah, actually, I got this text message. I was just escorting this guy named the Penguin to Commissioner Gordon's police station. And, later on, I was going to meet up with my old friend, the Joker. Oh, yeah, sorry. No, I'm not Batman. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm not really that busy. Why are you asking? And in both cases, this happened to me a little while ago. Totally different woman. And totally respectable woman, too. Like, these are not, I don't go to bars. I don't drink alcohol, but I also just don't, the type of women I meet. There's this other woman who I was interested in because study of languages in common, an educational background in common. She had a master's degree in linguistics. She's an interesting person, interesting, respectable woman. And as I recall, no, that's right. I thought she was over 30. She was actually younger than I thought she was. So I actually misjudged her. So whatever. She's in her mid-20s. Sent me a message. So this was a different woman a couple weeks ago. It's like, yo, like, you up? Where you at? You busy? It's like 2 a.m. this message. You know what I mean? And then in both cases, like the next day or a couple days later, when I write to them, it's like lamest excuse. Just own it. Like, I don't know. What do you want to meet me for at 2 o'clock in the morning? You want me to... This is only two examples. Neither one of these women would ever meet me during broad daylight at a coffee shop. But you're writing to me at 2 o'clock in the morning for what? Like, I'm hating the player and I'm hating the game. Because in both cases, so like last night was a Friday night at 2 a.m. The scenario I imagine is, in both cases, even though there's a couple weeks apart, these otherwise respectable, intelligent, beautiful women who have so much going for them. And, and we're not dating. We're not in a relationship. These are not women I've even been on one date with. I think they're out with their female friends. That's the thing is. There's a group of females. They're at the table. They're drinking beer together, or they're drinking whatever godforsaken Chinese vodka they're drinking. And they get the giggles. And I think, like, the group dynamic, like, makes them feel a little bit more self-confident or something. And one of them's like, hey, what about that white guy you said you were chasing? Why don't you call him up? Why don't you go after him? That's the scenario I imagine. And then, like, the next day, they've lost this self-confidence. They've lost the, they've lost the spirit of the moment. And it's just like some lame excuse. Like, oh, yeah, I was just wanting to have a conversation with you at 2 a.m. in the hotel lobby or some shit. You know what I mean? It's like, I'll just transition into a related topic here. Related, but not the same topic. Culturally, when a Chinese woman is trying to seal the deal. Now, this is not 100% Chinese women, but this is guidance that Chinese mothers give to Chinese daughters, a lot of Chinese women will say nothing about themselves. They'll sit there, they'll stare into your eyes, and they'll tell you, the man, that you're wonderful. They'll tell you great things about yourself. They'll indicate how interested they are. They'll indicate they want to get into a taxi or whatever. But like, they'll tell you nothing about themselves. One of the most extreme examples of this happened to me. So this was back in like 2008. And I sat down and I was really happy to see an old friend of mine. He's an old friend. I might see him again now this year in China. But he's an old white guy. He's over 50. I was just really happy to see him and talk about politics with him or get caught up with him. But I was really happy to meet him. And I really didn't care and didn't even want to notice that there was this Chinese woman sitting to the side. Who was very good looking, who was relentlessly hitting on me. Like really heavily hitting on me. But she was doing this thing that to me is cultural. She didn't tell me anything about herself. She did not tell me. Like, so you could be anybody to me. You're a complete stranger. And she was asking me questions about myself and my background and my research. And she was telling me how wonderful that was. And she was indicating as absolutely blatantly as possible that she wanted me to put her into a taxi. And I'm like, I'm happy to meet my old friend. Like, I'm not at you. I don't know anything. Like, she's good looking, but so what? I knew absolutely nothing interesting about her. I had no reason, You could be anybody to me. But that is a really strange cultural conditioning of them not talking about themselves. And I think, so I talked about this with my Chinese teacher, I think part of it in terms of cultural programming is that like their mothers tell them, like you'll turn the man off. Like if you talk about yourself, it'll seem arrogant or it'll just provide him with information that biases him against you. Like he won't make the decision you want him to make because he knows too much. But I mean, for whatever the reason is, a lot of Chinese mothers tell their daughters, when you really want a guy, you say nothing about yourself. You only answer questions that he puts to you, and even then, you just answer directly. So like if the man asks, what's your job? You just tell him the job, and that's it. No other information. Don't complain about your job. Don't complain about how you hate your boss. Don't complain about how you have a fight with a bitch at work who sits in the cubicle next to you. No. Give him nothing. Don't tell him anything about yourself. Just tell him you want to get in the fucking taxi. So, again, obviously this is not 100% of Chinese women. And I meet a lot of very unusual Chinese women because I meet women with PhDs and women at the university. I meet women at the library. I don't go to bars. I don't meet the kind of women who hang out at bars. I don't meet the kind of women who chase foreigners. I don't, But that particular girl, that example, where, again, I was happy to meet my friend. She's sitting over here and she's really throwing herself at me. And she, like, one of the things they'll do when they really want to seal the deal now, they'll employ other people to try to force you into it. So, like, she's asking her friend to get at me on her behalf. And there was this other dude, and she was having him translate Chinese into English. Like, it's like, yeah, I get the message. But I don't know you. I don't like you. I don't know anything positive about you. And obviously she's not vegan. So like a week later, I do know some people in common with her, this woman. Like it turned out, like, whatever, 6 degrees of separation. Someone was like, yeah, you remember that girl? The one you didn't sleep with? I'm like, yeah. So she has an interesting story. Thing one, she's a lawyer from Beijing. Wow, okay, so she studied the law, lives in the capital city, probably interested in politics, probably interested in human rights, probably an interesting conversation to have. Okay, well, you could have told me that. Thing two, her whole family is Muslim. She's an ethnically Chinese Muslim. In terms of her faith, she's completely ethnically Chinese. She's not Central Asian. But she was one of these Muslims who rebelled against the conservatism of her family. Wow, okay, interesting. We can have a fucking conversation. But like, you think, so if you're a lawyer, like this one, okay, I understand. If you have a job you're ashamed of, I understand. But like, so you're a lawyer, you come from an interesting place, you do interesting things, and you think it works in your favor to remain anonymous, like when you're hitting on me, like as if you're more attractive if I regard you as a blank sheet of paper about whom I know nothing, you could be anybody. Well, what could be more seductive than a blank sheet of paper? Like a totally unknown, totally undistinguished person. Anyway, whatever, man. Some of you, I remember, Soy Tu Luna. She thinks life is paradise in Asia if you're a white man living in it. It's not. It's not paradise. And low key, I think the thing with the text messages at 2 a.m., I think it is a prejudice about white men. I think it is like, oh, hey, all I got to do is send this guy a text message at 2 a.m. Nope. And in both cases, you know, real talk, with both of those women, I meet people, I mean, if you guys don't already know this with my memo, I meet people with an open heart and an open mind, and I always say, look, I need friends, I don't really need a girlfriend, I don't really need a love affair. If we're going to be just friends, that's fine, that's cool. So I just meet people, I find out who they are, find out what we got in common, find out what we can build on, and if it turns out to be platonic, if it turns out to be just a friendship, great, I need more friends. Nothing wrong with that. But in both cases, the 2 a.m. text message, it ended up destroying any possibility of just being friends, because I don't play games. I'm like, hey, you know, you sent me that text message. You interrupted me when I was punching out the Joker, when me and Robin went our way to Commissioner Rose. Huh, what? You think I'm going to pretend I didn't know? I didn't notice you sent me that at 2 a.m.? Like... And then, you know, the pride thing comes in. Like, she doesn't want to admit that she played that card when she did. And, you know, now you can't be just friends because her ego's in the way. Hating the player and hating the game. I'm breaking all my own rules here, people. I'm breaking all my own rules. Hope you get a kick out of it.